Hey everyone, welcome to Disabled Traveller. I'm Canal. Now, in part one of my series in Thornbury, you walked. I showed you around my accessible room, and to be honest, I was blown away. But then, as we were walking around the castle, I was thinking we were walking around different parts of the castle, the Tudor Hall, and other various parts, and I was just blown away to think that this place was 500 years ago. The royalty used to walk around here, of the likes of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. And yeah, so here we are today in part two, and this video is going to be about the history of the castle itself and a walk-through tour, really. But firstly, I want to start with the story of the whole castle itself. So make sure you're comfortable, grab yourself a cup of tea or something, and get comfortable, and we'll begin. What we have here is a Tudor hall, and I mean, look at it really. This enormous fireplace with the Stafford knot carved into the stonework. That was the symbol, really, of Edward Stafford, the guy who built the 3rd Duke of Buckingham, who built the house, who built the castle, who built the place in 1511. After in 1510 he received permission to build a fortified house from Henry VIII himself. And here's the thing about Edward Stafford, he was actually the second richest man in England at the time, second only to Henry VIII himself, and that was a real problem to Henry. Because Edward wasn't just wealthy, he was a direct descendant of King Edward III, and in Tudor England that made you dangerous. Henry saw him as a threat, so in 1521, that's 10 years after beginning construction on Thornbury, he was summoned to London and was trialled for treason and then found guilty and was executed as a result. Because of this, then, Thornbury Castle was always left in this unfinished state, as it was. Really, it only reached the time of 1521 when they finished all the work on the castle, and then ever since then it's remained in this unfinished state as it is now. The thing that I learnt afterwards, that Edward wasn't actually the first person to be beheaded from the Stafford family. His father as well, the 1st Duke of Buckingham, he was also beheaded because of for plotting against the King Richard III at the time. And as a result, so what this tells me is like 2 dukes both beheaded because of this in the same grounds. This story, I mean, it's not just history. There's a lot of blood there as well, if you ask me. Edward Stafford's execution, most of Stafford's estate passed on to the crown to Henry VIII, and a lot of his estate was actually sold off to various other people. But Henry kept Thornbury Castle. He kept it as his own, and then in 1535 he visited there with his second wife, Anne Boleyn. He stayed there for a total of 10 days because of the outbreak of the plague at the time in nearby Bristol. He was stuck there really, so he stayed at the castle. It might just look like any normal old chimney to you, but this is one of the oldest chimneys in England. Predates back to 1514. Only exceeded by one. There's only one other chimney like this in the whole of England, and I believe that's in Hampton Court. At the time, this was considered quite affluent, obviously, and by Edward Stafford himself, he thought, well, I can afford things that the king can't even afford, so why not? So if you've got it, why not flaunt it? It was that statement that unfortunately got him killed and executed. So here we are in the gallery now, and in Tudor times this was seen as the height of palace fashion, really. And the Duke would obviously bring his guests over here, and they'd look out into sit in the gallery and out overlook on the goodly gardens and the private knot garden as well, with all the various flowers and the herbs. But here's a detail. Here's the interesting part. That he actually had a private door from this garden that went straight into the church, and he could take this entrance going straight to the church, and he could go there and sit there. The church you'll see in the next video, St Mary's Church, when we visited there, because I did a walk around there as well. Hopefully you'll stay for that. Yeah, I mean, he wanted to build this separate private entrance for himself, going straight into the church, because he didn't really want to sit amongst the public. He wanted his own private seating in the church, really, which is quite interesting, really. The mounting block, this is something I really want to talk to you about, because I find this really quite interesting. You'll notice that it's carved with the Stafford knot, obviously, all amongst it. But it's crazy to think that this mountain block was used in 1535 when King Henry VIII visited. And it's interesting to see that just back then they even thought that they'll probably need something to either get onto a horse or get out of the carriage or something. People would need help, and obviously then they used this mountain block. So it just tells you, friends, that accessibility isn't just a nowadays thing or something that can be brushed under the carpet. It's been around a long time. The castle was, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, was never really finished or left in a state of unfinishedness, which is quite upsetting, really, quite sad, really, because obviously after Stafford's death it got passed on to Henry VIII, and then after Henry VIII's death it got passed on to his children. Now his children decided then to give it back to the Stafford family, and obviously in 1824 there weren't any more Staffords, so it was passed on to the Howard family, who I believe had married into the Staffords. And that's when, after years of restoration because of the English Civil War, where the whole castle had been fallen into disrepair and everything, they then decided to do the repairs and everything since 1824. And that's really the history of the castle, really. So I hope you enjoyed that. Do stay tuned for the next part, and I'll be showing you something that you might not get to see if you visit Thornbury. I think we managed to get a walk around in one of the suites, so stay tuned for that. This is the Elizabeth I Tower suite, which we were very lucky that we managed to get access, because I wanted to show you guys, if you're coming to the castle with someone, then maybe, they might like to stay in one of the rooms up one of the towers, This is one of the towers away from the main block, really, so it's a separate one. And it has a coronet bed, as you can see, with the draped curtains going down. The room also does feature a separate sitting area to the left here, as you can see at the bottom of the bed here. With the views out looking onto the inside garden area, same as the one from our room below. I think this room is right above our room anyway. But there's loads of walking space in here, plenty of room. And there's tea coffee making facilities. I believe that's a walk-in wardrobe and a Tudor portrait here. Lovely sitting area, with the nice old historical looking chairs. You've got a lovely historical looking wardrobe there, and a chaise lounge just here in the seating area, to sit on comfortably to watch TV or something. Something quite characteristic, quite historical about a chaise lounge, yeah. Then you can see obviously the beams and everything of the ceiling, and the high ceilings they have here. And the fan, obviously, because of the heat. I think, that is much needed, really. And you got the bedside table just there. And I would also like to iterate that this room is empty at the moment. The guest had checked out, and we were given access to it. So here's the walk-in shower. As you walk in, there is a slight step here, but if someone able-bodied is using it, I don't think it'll be a big concern. And of course, it has the cast iron bath as well inside as well, and the sink there as well with the toilet next to it. I think you'll all agree with me here that the decor inside the whole hotel is a mix of historical yet modern, really, and it is really nice to see how they've kept things modern, used to put a modern touch on it, but also kept that historical element inside quite alive, which is really and it looks absolutely beautiful, really. You got robes to the side of the door there. And we're back into the main room here with the emperor's. Well, I'm not sure, but I think it is an emperor bed. And so I think that's it, really. I think you'll all agree with me here. I don't think these stairs are they're not doable at all. But I wanted to show you the room anyway, So I sent my wife up there with the camera, just so then we can get a good look around, and I can show you, and I can preview it all for you all, really. So then you know what's up there, for any able-bodied people who are friends or family who are also coming along with you. Now I know the tour is over of the room now. There's probably not much reason to stick by, but do stick by because we've got a few more videos I want to share with you. I was sat one evening staring at this image, staring at the painting, and thinking that's probably what Henry VIII looked like when he probably came here with Anne Boleyn. Now, this was the breakfast area where we came every morning to have our breakfast. It might not look like much, but if you sat amongst all this wooden panelling and all these great artwork, it is great artworks. It is truly lovely. Made me feel like royalty, definitely. I mean, we could literally sit in this room for hours, just looking at all the various artwork and all the various antiques and everything around the room. I mean, it's exquisite, extremely exquisite stuff, and very intricate artwork, especially. I mean, look at these vases and things, vases, with the depicting different battles and things like that. Now here we are at the Rose Garden and summer house area of Thornbury Castle. This is a complete rose garden, as kept by as that's all the flowers here are all kept by the gardeners of Thornbury Castle. And there I am sat down because as you can imagine, it was a really hot day and I was absolutely shattered, going around the castle, everything filming and showing everything for you all. The garden itself is located to the side of the walled garden, which I featured earlier on in the video, the one with the open area in the bar and everything, as shown earlier. So it's just to the side of that, really. So it's easy to get to and everything for you. There's a ramped access as well as a stepped access there as well. As we come through the hedges now of the rose garden, we arrive here at the Goodley Garden. I believe this area was kept as a place where ladies could come here and visit and have a chat with friends and everything. Much else left for me to say here apart from thanks for watching from Thornbury Castle here, and if you want to watch my first video, then there'll be a link at the end of the video, I believe. Yeah, and stay tuned. I've still got one more video to come where we visit St Mary's Church and we do a walk through on the High Street of Thornbury. So do stay tuned for that. And then of course after that I've got my verdict on the whole stay at Thornbury. So I do hope you join me for that, and I'll see you next time.